So one of my goals over time is to try and manage the forage that I have better. I want the chickens to get as much as they can out of it. I want to save money by not having to plant as much, and I want to maximize the space that I have because I have limited space. So that's kind of one of the key tenets of small scale intensive growing is you don't have a lot of space, make the most out of every square foot. Every square foot that you're not maximizing for your context and your goals, you're effectively wasting it. And I don't have a lot of square feet back here to waste. Here's an example of some wasted forage. You can see looking at this area right here, this is where the chicken train was yesterday. The chickens were on this for one whole day. And they ate some, but they trampled a lot. They trampled most, they ate a lot less. This is the previous forage right here. So this is one section that wasn't covered up in that train. This is where they'll go next. And this is the original forage, this is the trample. If we just take a tape measure and measure this, probably 15 to 20 inches high. It's too high. And this is something I've learned from talking to a whole bunch of people that graze animals, especially chickens. When the grass gets too high, when the forage is too high for the chickens, it's not good for them. They just end up wasting it. They won't eat it. It gets tough, it gets fibrous, they waste it. So what you would ideally do in this situation is come through first before you put the chickens in and just cut this down. Mow it, string trim it, hit it with a scythe, whatever you have to knock it down to probably 4 to 6 inches in height. So that would be taking 10 inches off of this. Now this has grown up really fast because we've had nice weather and a lot of rain lately, and I can't move the chickens onto it fast enough, so this is kind of a good problem to have. But from a management standpoint, I need to step in before I put the chickens onto here and knock this down. Now this particular bit of grass here, this cover crop, I've already used the string trimmer on this 3 or 4 times before I could finally get them on here. So part of the problem I'm having is I don't have the permanent systems in place yet as I'm transitioning to the chicken train, which you've seen. So managing is a little bit helter-skelter right now. I kind of knew this was going to be a problem going in, but I said, whatever, I'll just put them on it anyway. I need to get this row turned up because I'm going to end up tilling this over for an initial till before I set up the permanent beds. The other problem I'm trying to deal with here is waste in this area. So there's a lot of trample here, and this is what a cattle rancher would say. You don't want them to trample all of it. You want them to trample some, to leave some standing, and to eat some. You hear all sorts of ratios, stuff like eat 60%, trample 30%, leave 10% freestanding. Right here, they've trampled a lot of it. They've probably ate 10% and they've trampled 90% of it. So how do you fix that? My solution to that is basically take what large-scale grazers are doing with paddock shift rotation and use my chicken train to do that. If you take a chicken and you put them in a big long run like this, they'll just walk up and down the run all day. Not eating, just walking up and down. So they're trampling a lot in the process. Trample effectively leads to waste. So what you can do to contain that waste is shorten down their paddock. A large-scale grazer would do this by taking a large paddock and then just subdividing it with a couple strands of hot wire. Well, my way of subdividing this small cover crop row is to just roll out a few sections of the chicken train. So each day I could add new sections, forcing them to be in less room at the beginning, therefore waste less. If you contain the chickens in a small space, they'll maximize the trample, the eating in that small space, and then you open up a new space, and you open up a new space after that. So you're gradually exposing them to more based upon their eating needs. Once they've maximized the old space, you open it up to new. This, I think, will eliminate waste, and this is what's nice about the flexibility of this chicken train system. I can just put new cars, if you will, at the end based upon what I'm seeing in the field. Overall, I think this will really work and help cut down on the waste. This is based on the base principles that high-intensity grazers use. People like Greg Judy, people using holistically managed grazing, the whole philosophy behind that is put a high concentration of animals on a small piece of land for a short period of time, and then use your experience in your brain to monitor what's happening in that pasture. Over time, you learn when's too long, when's too short, and then you move them accordingly. You size the pastures accordingly. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do here. At the end of the day, the goal is to maximize what I'm putting down for the chickens. It's less expensive for me that way. I want the chickens to consume most of the grass. I don't want them to trample it. Now, trample's okay because it does build soil, but I'm building soil in other ways. You know, like all the roots are staying in the soil. So the main goal for me here is to have the chickens eat as much green as possible. This is how I can do that. And to maximize the green, it's going to involve paddock shifting them, if you will, with the chicken train, and also controlling the height of the forage. If it gets too high, I'll step in and mechanically knock this down. So when they do come into a new paddock, they don't just push it all on the ground like this, because when they push it down, they tend not to eat it. So that's one way that I'm trying to improve what I'm doing. It's improving the management of what I'm doing, and it's also improving the development of what I'm doing through the systems, the physical systems, the infrastructure systems that I have in place. Really a two-prong approach. I don't think you can just do one or the other. I think you need the infrastructure in place and continue to evolve and adapt that to your situation. And you also need the management. I think the management part is the part where a lot of people forget about, they don't think about. And that's really the key to the system, because in the greatest system with the best infrastructure, if you manage it poorly, you're not going to get the most out of the system. So I'm trying to go out there and continue to try both. I hope this one helps. Thanks for watching. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.